45 years after the tragedy of the Rwandan genocide shook the world, French President Emmanuel Macron is commissioning a 9-member panel to begin a 2-year probe into the role the French army played during the horror. France has acknowledged mistakes in its past dealings with Rwanda, but dismisses accusations that it trained militias to participate in the massacre. Rwandan President Paul Kagame has accused Paris of being complicit in the violence in which Hutu militia killed 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus. Meanwhile, child survivors and orphans of the genocide are now adults. Some were held away from certain poverty when they moved to neighboring countries.
300,000 children were killed during Rwanda's brutal genocide. Hutu extremists tried to wipe out the entire Tutsi population. Men and women, old and young. 100 days of unimaginable violence. When it finished, whole families were gone, and 95,000 children were orphaned. Vicente Paul Ruhumuriza was just a few months old at the time. His father buried in a mass grave. His mother, so traumatized by grief, she's unable to look after him.
I spoke to some people who knew her before, who have some stories. I heard that she got some troubles in the genocide, she was beaten, she was raped.
Vicent lived in poverty and was dropping out of school. But 7 years ago, he was placed in a special youth village. Agahazo Shalom is based on an Israeli model, which helped heal young victims of the Holocaust. Here, 15 children live in each house, under the care and watchful eye of a mama. Vicente was cared for by Emerita Mukaru Sagara, who lost her own husband during the genocide.
Raising children in a country like this, raising children who don't know or have their mothers and fathers, helping them until they call you mum and then they become adults, makes me so proud.
With the support of his foster mum and brothers, Vicente became school president and now has a job in the construction industry. 25 years after the genocide, his life has been turned around, like 850 others who've passed through the village. The children from 1994 have grown up, but Agahazo Shalom hasn't closed its doors. The charity is now helping orphans, abuse victims and refugees from nearby conflicts.
That was Reuters' Sam Holder reporting. Now, a 2-day international conference on genocide is wrapping up Friday in Kigali ahead of Sunday's 25th anniversary of the Rwandan genocide. Delegates are discussing the realities of generational shift in society that has experienced genocide, looking at lessons, challenges and threats. Another session is focused on the role of state, the church and the media in the propagation, polarization and disintegration of the social fabric of Rwanda and how it led to the genocide. Now, the forum participants are also discussing the necessity for justice in the aftermath of genocide in the context of nation building, reconciliation, and fighting impunity. Now, for more perspective on the 25th anniversary of the Rwandan genocide, I'm joined live from Kigali by Richard Sezibera. He is the Rwandan Minister of Foreign Affairs. Good evening, Minister Sezibera. Good to see you.
Good evening to you.
Yes, and now it's 25 years later, and the big conversation has been about reconciliation. How far has the country come in that process?
Well, first of all, the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994 took the lives of over 1 million people. That's 10,000 people a day, 10,000 families that were traumatized, 10,000 families that every day for 3 months. Those 1 million families and more have to live with the trauma of genocide. The whole Rwandan nation has to reconcile, and is now has renewed itself. So it's been 25 years of reconstruction, 25 years of the determination to make sure that Rwandans and the Rwandan nation is rebuilt in its entirety, in its humanity, and aims at prosperity. And this has been a journey that is ongoing. We've achieved some successes. There is a lot of work still to be done, but we're on the right path.
Now, we've run some profiles of people who, of course, experienced this, and you can see the pain. For some, you can see the pain is still present, and there was always that question of justice, and Gacaca was put in place to do that. Do you feel that many people feel justice has also been done, even as they try to heal over the years?
The question of justice was difficult. Rwanda has done everything possible. The survivors of genocide, but also deal with reconciliation. Millions of perpetrators. Some of them have confessed their sins and been rehabilitated into society. So yes, justice for Rwanda has been a journey. On the other hand, for the international community, I think there's been some injustice in the justice provided. Lots of resources, over $1 billion spent judging only 60 people, compared to the resources that were available to the Rwandan government. And we still have many perpetrators of genocide across Europe and the United States and everywhere who have not been extradited to face justice in Rwanda or been prosecuted where they are, and that certainly still is an injustice.
Dr. Sezibera, there have also been concerns about the politicization of the whole issue, that it becomes a bit difficult sometimes to have a conversation. For some people feel that they may be labeled something like, for example, genocide denier. How are you dealing with that?
It cannot be politics. The 10,000 people who died every day have names, they have faces, they have people who killed them. That is not politics. That is mass murder. That is genocide. And those who deny it, those who try to revise it, are either accomplices or enablers of the genocidal project, because the genocidal project has in itself, in its conception, the possibility for denial, the possibility for revision. And therefore, this has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with humanity and making sure that those who lost their humanity and killed humanity have their day in court.
Well, Minister Sezibera, thank you very much for taking time to appear in Africa 54. That's Richard Sezibera, who is the Rwandan Minister of Foreign Affairs.